Thank you. And let's move to the next two sessions. We're running a little bit late, so perhaps you can go for lunch at 1:30. And let's move to Africa now. And it's my good pleasure to call upon the four distinguished panelists. Omar Gouda from Egypt, please come to the floor. Dr. Adel Mounir as well, please come. And from Sudan, Tariq Osman. And from Tanzania, Mohsin Hossein, to please come to the floor. Welcome, everybody. And this is a panel, no formal presentations. We have a Q&A. I would propose that we start from Omar, from Egypt, going to Sudan, then again Egypt, going to Sudan, and down to Tanzania. And each one of you can make his own presentation, his case, for 5 minutes or so, and then we can open up the floor. Omar?
Yeah, thank you very much, Alberto. Yeah, actually talking about the prospects in Africa is a very challenging topic. I remember when we started to study establishing Africa Retakaful that we had a lot of prospects, and we were optimistic about many sides of the Takaful industry development generally. Thanks God for Africa, despite all the challenges the Takaful industry is facing internationally, but in Africa, Takaful industry is achieving some success as compared to the other markets. Maybe because Africa joined recently. As everyone knows, Sudan started the Takaful or the Islamic insurance in 1979, and after that it was developed a little and, till 1992 when Sudan became an Islamic, the insurance became Islamic insurance as a general, the whole market. However, for the rest of Africa, they delayed joining these. I believe the first trial was in South Africa by 1989. Then Egypt started with a company in 2003, and that developed afterwards. At the time being, when we look to Africa, we find Takaful, of course, in Sudan, in Egypt, in Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Mauritania, and many other countries. But when we see this, we find also the number of companies are to some extent is very remarkable, but still the volume of the development and the progress of the industry is facing a lot of challenges. But part of the challenges we face is the practitioners or the staff of the Takaful companies are not well prepared, so they cannot really present the unique product for Takaful to to the customers and to the other parts of the industry. And at the time being, it is very difficult to find real boundaries between Takaful and insurance. So if our customers are not recognizing these differences, they will stick to what they knew, and it will be the conventional insurance. I believe for Africa, we need, as industry, to work very hard to develop the legal framework for the industry and to focus more on training of the staff, to improve awareness between the insurance practitioners, and not to rely on only on that we have certain expected population of Muslims. As we know, Muslims in Africa is about 53%, which is the highest Muslim ratio in the 6 continents. But still, there is not enough reason for people to come to Takaful. We need also to study more how to present Takaful in affordable way and try to treat the very high expenses of the Takaful industry, management expenses, as compared to other channels of business. And the most important one, I believe, we need to rediscover again the Takaful industry, the cooperative nature of the Takaful industry, which will assist for sure to have a better future for the African Islamic insurance in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. And Dr. Adel, Islamic finance started in the 60s in Cairo, in Egypt, and Takaful started a few years later in Sudan. So is in that region. What is your perspective from your observatory on the possible development in the area, given this such a strong and healthy background?
You speak about, especially in Egypt?
Egypt or Sudan, or this part of the world, yes, this part of Africa.
I think, like typical in Africa, there is, as we say, there is so much opportunities, especially as Mr. Gouda said, that we have a high population growth with growing Muslim population, and also we realize a growth of family takaful and the health and personal health insurance and the personal lines, as well as economic development. So we can see that there is so much opportunities, but what I would like to add and prepare myself to speak about today, we have only 41 operators in Africa out of 205 Takaful operators worldwide. It is according to statistic I copied last year. 41 operators producing a Takaful contribution, about 5% of the total Takaful contribution worldwide, including South Africa contribute to about 2% out of the 5. So it looks like we are behind, especially in Africa. So I will go to a special proposition which I copied from what declared in China in 2014 by Prime Minister when he said that insurance gonna be a strategic industry, and he gave about five initiatives. I will copy 2 initiatives that can be or possible from my point of view be applied in Africa. One of them is that changing the function of Takaful or commercial insurance together from a supplementary function to a pillar or a main pillar of social security in the social security system. For example, to cooperate, produce, or develop a pension schemes or insurance, health insurance also scheme. This is one of the initiatives declared in 2014 for insurance industry in China. Also, the other proposal concerning the establishment of a comprehensive catastrophe insurance system based in a commercial and Takaful insurance platform with government backing, risk-sharing structure. It's possible since that catastrophic insurance can be sold to government and individuals. So this is the second initiative proposed by China. I can combine these 2 initiatives for Takaful under what we call co-opetition. There is a co-opetition expression combine the cooperation and competition words. This is a 2 word. Instead of going for a traditional cooperation and traditional competition, it can be combined together, and I will give you an example. In In early, I think, 2000, that Peugeot company, car industry, Peugeot and Toyota combined, agreed to produce the same component for one car. And then they sell it under 3 brands. It is Peugeot 107, Toyota Aygo, and Citroën C1. So they shared, cooperate to reduce cost, but they still competing healthy by brands. Also, we can see Samsung and I have the name here, Samsung Electronics and I have the name, sorry. And Sony company. They, in 2004, also they cooperate to produce the flat screen LCD platform. This is an example of what we mean by cooperation and competition together to create a value added to insurance in general and for Takaful especially. And this is what I would like to say today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And Tariq, we were in Khartoum a few days ago together, a very successful conference, well attended, but was on Islamic finance. And there was almost no word on Takaful, in spite of Takaful being the brainchild of Sudan. Tell us.
Okay, Bismillah. First of all, it's an honor to be here and get to talk about the Sudan experience in general. I think the Sudan experience is unique since 1979, since we invented it. I'd like to take our example of United Insurance as a model, which is my insurance company at present. For the past 3 years, we've been talking about Takaful generally in Africa. I think Takaful should beat conventional insurance in every form or manner. If you hold it up to standard in comparison, we have a better product than conventional insurance. A couple of the speakers spoke about 3 or 4 issues that I'd like to touch on. The first was the unique selling proposition that Takaful has to sell to the world. At United Insurance, for example, we've been giving out 40% of our insurance surplus. We do insurance under a Wakala model. Our Wakala model should not exceed 15% of our expenses, no more than our turnover. We've had our record number of surplus these past 3 years in our performance. The model is actually working on all levels. So we've been distributing 40% of our insurance surplus back to our customers and our staff. This is actually done by a policyholder meeting, which is completely fair, where our customers decide how much to give away. We're willing to give away all the way up to 100% if the customers decide so. The welfare of the company, though, lets the customers, it's a Takaful model. They have to give us some money back for the company to provide the service for the next year. So that cooperation model also works. Another issue was we were talking about mutuals. One of the speakers was talking about mutuals, and that Takaful is a very similar model to mutuals, but mutuals don't perform as well. This is where I disagree, and I think that Takaful actually makes a mutual work for all sides. I'm one of the largest private shareholders and personally had an issue with Takaful Insurance as not giving me any profits in the first years as trying to understand it. But Takaful brings its money in our model exactly under the investment model. We make our profits as shareholders from the investment model, not from the insurance. We take zero money from the insurance side. That in itself has worked for 2014 being our best performance year in all levels. We've performed on surplus. We've given away 40%, which was our largest distribution of surplus, over 4 million Sudanese pounds. We've been able to give our best investment profits for our shareholders. For the first time, the shareholders got better than any investment profits they had in the past years, even before conventional insurance, because we were established 1969, changed to Takaful in 92. So since then, this has become the best performance. And my staff and my employees have been receiving the best bonus performance. So I think this is the balance between the modern day company, what it can do or what it should take, and the balance between the staff, the employees. If I take Apple as an example, Apple is making crazy profits and it's got reserves that are just abundance. If they give back to me as an Apple person, some money back at the end of the year, I'd be an Apple fan for a longer period of time. There's a limit to how much you can do or take in profit. So I think this is actually a balance between the situation. I think Sudan has been sort of marginalized a little in the conferences. We're not attending as many conferences. We're trying to promote this, hopefully, and we're looking forward during this conference and et cetera to expand that model. If we take the Africa theme that we're talking about, I think it's a misconception on Africa. We're talking about 1%, 2% penetration level of insurance, whether we're talking conventional or takaful. Africans, we don't believe in insurance in the first place. It's when something bad happens. Well, in Africa, it's usually bad happening all the time. So putting something for a rainy day is an issue. But it's a change of convention. If we can sell takaful on its unique selling proposition, on agreeing on a certain model that can work for all countries, etc., I think Africa has a great potential to actually start penetrating even more than conventional insurance. Thank you.
But Tariq, we know that there are conflicting interests between the shareholders fund and the stakeholders fund, and you are a shareholder as well. So how did you solve, and how are you still smiling and happy?
Definitely my general manager over here gave him a hard time. He had a hard time explaining to me Takaful and trying to explain to me how it's going to make money. I think it took an awareness. We didn't go through it I wouldn't say it was a smooth ride. It was a trial and error. Even the supervisory authority in Sudan was developing as we came along. One of the experiments we did in Sudan, which was unique, we did the first partnership agreement. Usually the investments is a Mudaraba model. We did the first partnership agreement between our policyholders and our shareholders, where we built our headquarter towers. It's a 13-floor building. It's a great investment project. It brought benefit to both the shareholders and the policyholders at the same time. They got better services, and we had a solid real estate investment. By building up the investment portfolio of our company, we were able to secure the shareholders' rights and get them to look away from the insurance side of making money off the business and into the investment side of it. So right now, as managing director, I actually have no background or history on insurance. My general manager, Mr. Mohammed Abdin, runs the insurance side. I'm in charge of the investment side because that's what influences the shareholders' benefit. While my general manager, we actually did complete corporate governance restructuring to try to bring in the new Takaful model to take on with the new era. We're a private company, but our accounts are actually completely online. We believe in complete transparency, corporate governance, and we're trying to build that system that can go further on, eventually trying to take it to public. We think that's the next step, and regional. We think the Sudan might be not as developed, but the whole Africa needs to be developed in general. If we're talking our region, Chad, Djibouti, Somalia, is potential that's just immense.
So in other terms, you gave the stakeholders a saying in the governance of the company?
We actually gave our customers, they get to elect a board member that actually is on our board seat, and we created 2 committees right now. We created an investment committee, which is attended by our policyholder representative as a member to make sure that all investments are for the welfare of the policyholder. And we did a compensation committee to make sure our salaries and our packages and our employees are also on a fair basis. Also attended, and a member of it is the policyholder representative. So ensuring that the customer is at every strategic decision-making part of our company.
Okay, thank you. I have a tougher question for you later on. But let's move to Mohsin, please, and tell us about your case in Tanzania.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
First of all, I thank the organizer for accepting me to be one of the invitees in today's conference. In fact, first I want to introduce ourselves. I'm coming from Tanzania, and what Mr. Bati Ajmal Bai said that regarding all regulation of the companies, but Tanzania was not mentioned. But Alhamdulillah, from last month, our government has agreed to pass the regulation, and from next month we are starting the operation as a Takaful. So we are on board of Takaful. Regarding Takaful in Africa and in the part of Sub-Sahara, because my colleagues are from northern part, which is mostly is Muslim part, but in our side there's a lot of challenges. Because still some people think that this Takaful is only for Muslims, while it's not. Like what Sir Datu Sir Muhammad Kamal said that this is for everyone, I mean Muslim and non-Muslim. But over there we are facing a lot of challenge for that. So on this side, we have decided to make a marketing, but we are branding Takaful as a Takaful itself. Takaful as a brand, as a new scheme of profitable insurance. So we are not mentioning Takaful as Islamic insurance. So on that basis, we are trying to penetrate, because through our marketing right now, because our operation has not yet started. But second thing, what we have discovered is that we have studied a lot of Takaful companies, but we have seen that many of them, they have not managed to produce surplus. Because of the high risk which they are getting, so we have tried to innovate a new scheme which of combining two things together. For example, in motor vehicle, we have innovated something called tracking device. So we are fixing that tracking device in every car, and that tracking device gives us result or data that where this vehicle is, how is driver behavior, and also because this is new technology, we are getting from Netherlands, and it's also giving us something like a black box, which records all event or all incident which occur 5 minutes before the incident or the accident. So by doing that, we know that this, if there's a claim, is it human-made or is really accident? So by that, we hope that this market will grow very, very well in Tanzania. And second, regarding fire, we are introducing CCTV camera. So we can see through CCTV camera what's happened, that if fire was done by human or it's natural. So I think that by now, right now, because we have not started operation, but we are in order of standing order of 8,000 vehicles to be issued policy through this tracking device. So many people, because in Tanzania mostly, if some of you might have visited, that there's many Yemeni, Omani, and Indian, and these people are holding about 80% of the economy of Tanzania. So most of them, they are owners of long vehicles and fuel tankers. So I mean, we right now, alhamdulillah, we are just about to start, but we have a very good market. Thank you very much.
And which model are you using in your operations?
Sorry?
Which model are you using in your operation?
Our Wakala model.
Is it Wakala model? So
Yeah.
you're charging a fee, and for how long have you been in business now in Tanzania?
No, we are just about to start.
Oh, you're starting?
Yeah, we are just starting in the month of April.
Okay, so it just is a new operation?
Yeah, but we have a pre-arrangement,
Yeah.
so of marketing.
Okay, thank you. So we've got 5 minutes for questions. If anybody wants to ask a question.
Thank you very much. Actually, it's a comment about question you asked. What about the conflict of interest between shareholder and policyholder?
Thank you.
And I would like to say that there is no conflict of interest. Actually, the both interests, Takaful or Sharia compliant insurance, is a business, as you mentioned earlier, is not a charity. Both of them are protecting their wealth. So when it comes to the model that you're using, is it cooperative or mudaraba or wakala or a hybrid, which is a combination of both? The both interests are aligned, i.e., in order to produce a good result or a self-sufficient participant fund, you have to really control your cost. So by controlling the cost, then the wakala fee is kept to the minimum. Then at the end, there is no qard hasan, so the shareholder interest is aligned. So if you increase the wakala fee, then it will be a loss in the qard hasan, and then the shareholder will suffer. So it is not a conflict, as I say, both interests to produce a self-sufficient participants and profitable shareholder fund. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Zainal, do you agree that there are no conflicts between the two pools? Please speak out.
I think the issue is primarily of the perception or expectation, if you like, in terms of what exactly is this card. I think, for example, in Bahrain, for many years, the perception was that card is temporary, and therefore it's okay to incur a card. But what's important is to ensure that the shareholders make money from the wakala fee. So we have the situation in Bahrain until recently, whereby the Takaful operator incentivized, if you like, to have volume of business. As far as management is concerned, more volume of business, because if you've got more volume of business, then your wakala fee as an income, as a percentage of that volume, is increased. Whilst from management perspective, is that if you have a card, i.e. there's not enough money being put into the Takaful risk fund to pay the claims, that's not a problem because it's just a loan. But of course that's wrong, because ultimately, I think it was shown just now in terms of the S&P sort of presentation that, you have situations whereby you take the card and then you compare it and then you look at the deficit in the Takaful fund. It can be like 50% of the equity of the company. So I think where the perception may be that there is no, if you like, difference in terms of interest.
Expectations.
Yes, sorry?
Expectations.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how you treat, how you basically treat this card, if you like, what this. In Malaysia, for example, we have a very simple rule in Malaysia as far as the regulator is concerned. If effectively, the auditors feel that the card cannot be recovered, you must write it off. So from that perception is like a conventional company, whereby if you have a loss, you have to write it off. So you immediately feel the pain. Whilst if the regulation in the country says that you don't have to write it off, you can keep it as a card, then there could be a misconception that you're making money, i.e. shareholders making money, but in reality, you're actually not making money because you can't recover the card.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Please go ahead. And the microphone here.
In fact, I have 2 points. Firstly,
please go ahead.
To this clarifications. For, there are 3 models, either mudarba or wakala or combined. Some sort of conflict between this or this. But the third one, which majority of Takaful companies doing, I think there is no conflict of, because this is shareholders, policy holders. There are some sort of corporations together. This operating and taking the wakala fees. And they are investing, taking mudarba fee. So no conflict at all. This firstly.
Thank you.
Second question to my colleague in Sudan. You said you're already distributing 40% surplus.
Yes.
How long?
Actually, what we're doing is we have a policyholder meeting, and they decide on what they do. For the past 3 years, they've decided to distribute 40. For 3 years
So
continuously.
the mechanism of this calculating is this surplus.
Is it what? Sorry?
Which model, first of all? Which
The
model?
wakala model.
Wakala.
The insurance side is the wakala model, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Wakala model, and then we made, I think it was 2 million. Then a year after we made, it was 5 million surplus. Then we made 10 million surplus. So 2 million, 4 million was distributed. We take out our client list, and then based on the percentage, it's not a no-claim bonus. All our members get it equally distributed based on the percentage of their.
On which basis? On the net profits, or which?
Of the net surplus, we don't have profit. Net surplus.
Yeah, because
yes,
45.
net surplus. Yes, of course. Yes. Net surplus. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please, the lady down there.
I have a question for the whole panel. My question is about investment from the Takaful. I understand that you mainly having an investment in real estate from your answers. The question to the whole panel, actually, what is the relation? What investment projects you're looking at from the Takaful point of view, relating to the ethical point we've heard about earlier, and relating to the Islamic finance concepts and maqasid al-Sharia? Thank you.
Dr. Adel, would you like to volunteer an answer? And be roasted?
Actually, I am an ex-regulator, so I am not a practitioner. So you will see that from my thoughts. Like in Egypt we did not create a Takaful environment. Only we put some rules for the operation of companies, but we left for the Sharia compliance, the Sharia committee to specify the channels available. Yes, there is not enough Islamic investment environment in Egypt, but we hope it can be recognized according to the new draft law for insurance regulation, which will be issued maybe next year. The same story, I think, except in Sudan or Iran or Saudi, you will find the same problem. There is no dominant investment environment, especially for Takaful. But as I know that the Sharia committee, they are relaxing some of these requirements whenever there is a darura or what available in the market.
And Tarek and Mohsin, what will be your investment environment? Tarek.
Okay, first of all, in the investment side, okay, Sudan is a bit different because it's a completely Sharia compliant country, so most of our investments have to be Sharia compliant. We don't have that much of an option. We do have a Sharia board that it goes back to. Our supervisory authority gives us certain restrictions to try to protect the policyholders' fund between bonds, sukuk, real estate, etc. We have to have a certain equity. I'm actually in charge of the investment portfolio, and I think this comes back to the question of the African, what we can do. We actually attended a conference in Ethiopia about what insurance companies' investments can do for Africa. So I can start, technology is changing the world. Entrepreneurship, I think, is changing faster than anything else. The younger generation, we have over 65%, I think, is under the age of 25. If you hold the African population mainly, you have a lot of younger generation. I think you can start that side of the Takaful investments, as long as they're Sharia compliant, can be a game changer in how we invest our money, in how we do certain things that can be beneficial, economic, social development, etc. It can all be incorporated together. I can actually sell my insurance services accompanying my investment services that come along, because insurance basically goes in almost any other kind of investment. But we're not limited to any kind of investments that are, as long as it's Sharia compliant. Besides having a fair portfolio, not to risk it in any, etc. In our sense in United, we did corporate governance because we felt the shareholders might use this investment fund more on their personal level rather than the policyholder. So we made the policyholder representative be a member of the committee to make sure that it's in the welfare of all sides together. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Mohsin.
Yeah. In fact, as we understand that Tanzania is one of the developing countries, and as Brother Tarek said, that we also have a lot of young generation, and it depends, any investment you have to, Sharia board has to decide that if it's according to Sharia or what. But alhamdulillah, there's a lot of investment which can be made as in developing countries, I think.
Give us some juicy examples.
Yeah, regarding the example, in fact, in our country, mostly we depend on enterprises, entrepreneurship.
Okay, thank you. If there are any other questions, please. Okay, the lady again.
I have a concern that when we talk about Sharia board, sometimes the Sharia board is only concerned about what's halal and haram. It doesn't look further on the aspect beyond halal and haram and the aspect of the benefit and reward to the society and or actually the bad effect to the society. So maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure about what's happening in your Sharia board, but maybe that we need to, in a wider discussion, we can look at the Sharia board and then they can incorporate and further more than halal and haram and looking at the morality of Islamic finance and takaful in general and investment in general.
I'll take up this answer.
Yeah.
Certainly this is a major issue, not in takaful only, but in Islamic finance. And they say that we should now move from 1.0 to 2.0, or in Arabic terms, from halal to tayyib, you know. And certainly focusing on the divide between haram and halal was already big results. But nowadays, as I said in the morning, we already have a movement forward, you know, because you see that there are people, they were buying bio product and going now to halal, not because of faith, but because they think they are purer or healthier or these sorts of things, you know. Another example, it's UNDP, for example, United Nations Development Program, which is very active on impact investing. They just issued a paper, a brochure, actually, a draft few weeks ago in Istanbul, linking impact investing to Islamic finance and vice versa. So certainly there is a lot of work to be done in this direction, and the proper setting of Islamic finance is not based on halal and haram, it's based on tayyib, certainly. Thank you for your questions. And any other questions? No, yes, the last one here. Oh.
Thank you. I do not have any questions, just comments. We usually understand that there are 3 takaful models all being operating in the world. Wakala model, Mudarba model, and Wakala Waqf model. But in Africa, they have another model as well. That is called Wakala Mudarba model. In Somaliland, in Kenya, even Tanzanian Insurance Regulatory Authority, they also issued a draft regulation for Wakala Mudarba model. They took the Wakala fees, and at the end, from the surplus, they also take the Mudarba share as well. So I want to know from my seasoned panelists that what type of this model they are being utilized in Africa.
Perhaps may I ask, I'm not sure to have understood the question, Zubair.
Yes, they utilize Wakala Mudarba model.
Yes.
That is the hybrid model.
Yes.
In which they, in advance, they took the Wakala fee, and at the end of the year, whatever is the surplus, they take the Mudarba share from that surplus as well. For example, Takaful Insurance of Africa in Somaliland, they are utilizing this model. And one of the Takaful company in Kenya, they also utilize that model.
Yeah, it's a hybrid, yes.
Hybrid one.
Combined, but it's a combined, but usually it is based on separation of the portfolios. If you talk about the technical or policyholders' rights or participants' fund, there is wakala usually, while mudaraba is for investment fund for the shareholders.
The two different pools, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Tariq?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Look, every country has its own rules and regulations. I think they were talking about standard of regulations. Now, with me trying to go from one country to another, I'd have that problem of which model I can follow, etc. But each country actually has its own rules. The wakala model is, like they said, usually on the insurance side of the business. The mudaraba model is on the investment side. Now, other people have one of 2 models usually on certain things. But I've never heard of using the insurance side with both hybrid. It's either one of the 2.
No, it's one of the 2, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what I know.
In fact, it is not based on the countries, as my colleague saying. It is. This is, when the Islamic insurance started in 1979. There are, as I told you, there are 3 models. The third one, this is the combined model. Explaining the mechanism of this model you know, the relationship between the shareholders and the policyholders. Shareholders managing the books of policyholders and taking the fees. This is their fees for operating this one. Yeah, exactly. So this is a combined Wakala fees. And taking this Wakala fees and covering the whole expenses. Okay. On the other side, the shareholders investing the contributions, the premium, which owned by policyholders. Certainly. And taking the Mudarba fees. You know, there are some Sharia boards, you can say, giving a different percentage. Sometimes 15% in the Wakala fees, sometimes 20%. And for investment, for Mudarba, sometimes some of the scholars are saying we have to support the shareholders and giving them the majority of Mudarba fees. And some others are saying 50-50. So the relationship between the boxes or the box parties is, you know, based on the, you can say, both of them assisting each other, business-wise. Those businessmen whom consisting the shareholders operating this box and taking, this is business-wise. So it is fair for both of them. But taking Wakala model or Mudarba model, I agree with you, there's some sort of conflict of interest. So.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment. And okay, very last question, please.
Sorry, I have two issues. One is a comment just to, and then another a question. The gentleman from Sudan, I think he's separating the two. He said from the insurance, they take the Wakala, and the investment side, they take the Mudaraba. Yeah. So which means basically they are adopting the hybrid model as a company. That is just clear. Yes. It's a hybrid model. Yeah. And which, as he said also, it depends on the countries. In my country, Nigeria, that just recently passed the laws for the Takaful, I think you are entitled to either take the Wakala, the Mudaraba, or the hybrid model, whichever one you want to adopt. Then my second question is basically my own understanding. I want to know whether I'm correct or what is the Sharia status. From my understanding of Takaful itself, the basic principle and the difference between Takaful and conventional insurance, the premiums you pay in case of Takaful is considered as tabarru, as a contribution that will be used in the pool to support a participant that has any calamity. And if it is tabarru, by Sharia, are you supposed to benefit any financial benefit again from that pool of funds? Because I thought it's the pool of funds that is invested, eventually also that surpluses are distributed. What is the stand of Sharia on this? Then you are benefiting while you are supposed to have given your money as a donation, as tabarru. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody wants to volunteer for this answer?
I can go. I have no problems with you. I think I fought with my general manager for 10 years about this issue. They took all my money, you know. Look, I completely agree. It's something that's different. It is a different model of how we do things. In this sense of the Takaful and the Tabarru idea, in Takaful, what I got in the end, we're there in case something happens. We're there to pay claims. In case something doesn't happen, this money is not ours. It is back to the customer to decide exactly what he would like to do with it. If he wants to distribute 50, 100, whatever amount, it is his money because he contributed it, and I operated it under a wakil model, you just authorized me, I give you my profit and loss. My profit and loss of that year is not the shareholders' accounts. Balance sheet is more or less to do with the shareholders. Profit and loss is to do with my customers. This is them, I perform the service, at the end of it I come back, I tell you, this is what I performed, this is the surplus. It is your money because you contributed it. So I'm giving it back to you on the same level. Now you decide from there on which legal rights you want to go. I think this is the one thing that makes us different than conventional insurance. If we're talking about Takaful in Africa, I think we should be talking about why Takaful is not in America, why it's not in the UK. I think Takaful companies, if you do it properly and if you got bigger companies, you can actually compete with the AIGs or with the things. We do it in a better system. I think it's similar to Islamic banking. you provide the same service, but there is a little bit of differences where you can't invest in derivatives or you can invest in certain things that are not Sharia compliant, which I think is for the better welfare overall for the participants, the shareholders, and the customers. So I think it's a winning formula on that sense. Taking that niche thing and trying to re-argue it or go behind it, I think if we take it as a notion that it's acceptable, it is a contribution, and I'm only performing for you, this is what makes you different than the Apple or the other companies that beg, the AIGs or et cetera of the insurance companies.
I believe also, yeah, I believe also it is, if we talk about the Sharia principles or basis for this, it is not just a pure tabarra, it is a conditional tabarra, where you give this donation but warranted that this to be treated in such way. So that is the basis, the fiqh basis for conditional tabarra. So it is possible that you give tabarra and then in advance of this or against this tabarra you can get the claim in case of damage, and also you can warrant that part of the surplus to be back to you, which is in order with the Sharia principles.
Omar, Adel, Tariq, Muhsin, thank you so much for a very brilliant participation.